Now generally I don't do unboxing videos, but in this case I'm going to make an exception. Ta-da! Introducing then the Radiolink A560, and this is the V2 version, so you may have seen older videos, but this is the updated version. So we have our manual for the supplied transmitter, which also has Bluetooth and an app for your phone, and we have what appears to be like a brief introduction pamphlet. Put those aside for the moment. And clearly we have the main wing there, and here then is the included little Radiolink transmitter. It's a very neat unit. I've used it before, and there'll be links to other videos in the description. It has USB charging, internal battery, and all the little switches and things that you need. We'll be taking a closer look at that and the apps later. We have a couple of batteries supplied, 7.4 volt, 600 milliamps. A carry strap for the bag. The bag is very, very nicely made. It's even like waterproof, splash proof at least, and keeps everything neat and tidy when you're traveling to and from the field. Here we have various cables for charging and connecting. An accessories bag that has lots of bits and pieces in, some tape there and the turn buttons that hold the thing together, and the little undercarriage there. Taking the top foam out then, we have a couple of supplied propellers there. Take a closer look at these. This clearly is your slow fly style of prop, and that is 8 by 3.8. Why they couldn't make it 8 by 4, I know not. And that's your conventional standard flight, which is a Gemfan 7035. Also in there we have a bunch of the rings to hold them on, and in the event of them touching the ground they will either bend out the way or the things will just pop off and you can put them back on again. On to the main event then. Doesn't that look very nice indeed? It's a good quality foam, I can feel it, and everything is assembled and in place pretty much. So I will go through the assembly in the next part. But we have a little battery strap. We have a Radiolink BIME A, which is the gyro controller there. We have some nice little servos all installed with their linkages, and of course adjustment on all of those should we need it. A 15 amp speed controller, and the motor there, I'm not sure if you can see, a 2204 1600 kV, and a nice strong plastic mounting for the motor there too. On this side we have the receiver, which is an R8XM S-Bus or PPM receiver, and obviously connects to the BIME gyro to control everything. And that packs neatly away back in the box. Now that we've taken all the parts out, we can move on to the assembly. As this is the ready-to-fly model, there is very little to the assembly, which we will get to. Being of an impatient nature, whilst we're doing that, I'm just going to put the battery on charge, the supplied charger and cable. We just plug that into a power bank, for example, and we have a red light there. Plug in our balance lead, and there we can see the battery charging away. We'll put that to one side. Opening our bag of goodies then, a roll of tape, which I don't think we'll need at this point. We have 4 turn buttons that attach the wings. We have some spare servo linkages and a rather nifty keychain. The instructions are very clear here. The first thing we have to do is to remove this slotted portion at the top of the fuselage here. Working that up one piece at a time. There we go. Now we can see the attachment points for the wing. You have an alignment tab there, and that just fits over the servo. And I don't know if you heard that just click into place, but that is secured now. Replace the top section. A little bit fiddly there just to get it started. Then we can locate each of the tabs and just push that down until everything is level. With that in place, then we can now install these turn buttons. Just make sure that they rotate through 90 degrees, taking care here not to trap any of the cables in place. A little tricky to do here where we've got this servo for the ailerons there, and finally the fourth one there, so we can see that they're all set at 90 degrees now. That's the wing installation. At the rear here we can see that there are two stabilizer rods for the vertical stabilizer here, and they're standard servo type connectors, so they simply pop in like that. Just make sure that they snap into place there. The next job then is to connect the ailerons. Recommends in the instructions setting that into the outermost hole there. Just to repeat on the other side. Again, just clicking that into place. Clearly the servo is not centered at the moment, but we will check that when we connect the radio. Landing gear then simply goes into the slot at the front here. And just push that until you heard it click into place there. Next it says to install the propeller, but as I'm going to be testing this on the bench, that will be the last thing that I do for obvious safety reasons. So that is the basic assembly. Before we connect the plane up then, a quick look at the little transmitter. This being the Radiolink T8S with Bluetooth to connect to your phone. We'll take a quick look at the app later. It's a traditional mode 2, so throttle on the left and the ailerons and elevator on the right. We have the traditional trim buttons there. The only buttons that need to concern us are the two three-way switches at the back here. They are channel 5 and channel 7. The other two buttons here are to control the camera, which we don't have. There it is then, very neat. What the switches do is outlined here, so our 7 and 5 channels. The channel 5 switches between stabilized mode, which is what it will be in when it switches on, with the switch all the way down or to the front. The center position, a gyro, and the up position manual. Channel 7 then gives us additionally a vertical mode in multi-rotor, drone configuration, and the acrobat mode, and finally vertical mode for fixed wing, which will probably be what I should be trying, a traditional sort of 3D mode. Making sure the throttle is down, then we'll turn the transmitter on. You get a little confirmation beep and the power level of the internal battery, which is charged via the port there as we saw before. For now, connect up the plane. Now we heard the traditional confirmation beeps there from the speed controller. There is our aileron function, so going to the right aileron goes up, left down, that's correct. elevator, down is up and up is down, and for the rudder, to the right and to the left, and throttle up. There's no override to the motor, be aware of that, at least out of the box it's that way. In the default stabilized mode then, this could also be called auto leveling. If we look from the back of the plane, we bank to the right, we can see that the right aileron goes up and the left one down, and that holds that position until the plane rights itself. Similarly, if I swing the rudder around, that will hold its position until the front is pointing. It's worth mentioning here that the plane is set up with its level, if you will, with the nose up about 20 degrees. So that's what it thinks is level when it's in its takeoff mode. On the undercarriage there, we can see a small amount of up on the elevator, so that's just going to take off on its own. So again, if we point the nose down, the elevator increases there. So we can see that the gyro is functioning and that all the control surfaces are moving in the correct direction. Let's now take a quick look at the app. You can download that from the Radiolink site. First of all, turning on our transmitter, we go to connect at the top left of the screen there and select our device. You must obviously let the app connect to Bluetooth. That beeping means that it's trying to connect, so you just press any of the trim buttons, and there we can see the status of our servos. On the top right of the screen we can see the transmit and receive voltage and an external and the RSSI. To get those values clearly, we need to power the plane up. And now with the plane initialized, we can see the receiver voltage, and external is the battery voltage on the plane, and our RSSI there. That's useful to know. Indeed, you can get, I think, an adapter to connect your phone to the top of the transmitter there, but I don't have that. As I say, this will just be a quick overview. If we look at the basic tab in this screen, I mean, clearly from the get-go, all of the configuration has been done at the factory, as this is the ready-to-fly model. But if we wanted to use this for something else, then we'd have to go into these screens, and we can reverse the channel, we can do sub-trims, we can change the values of the fail-safe. You can see there on channel 3 that'll go to 0. And delay is an interesting one. Delay is a kind of like expo. If we go back to the servo display and we look at the aileron movements, you can see that they react very quickly. We go back to the basic tab and change the delay down to say 98, and we have to write that back to the transmitter. So we get the acknowledgement beeps there. Flipping back to the servo page now, the channel that I modified was channel 1, which is the ailerons. So we can see now that they're moving a lot more slowly. Well, they still go to the full value. And if you compare that with the elevator, that responds immediately. So that might be a useful function for other models. I'll put it back for the moment. Looking at the advanced display then, we can add dual rates and mixes and things, but for the moment leave all of that alone. If you're going to use it in the future, we have built-in Elevon and V-tail mixing, but that won't concern us at the moment. Flipping to the last page, the program mix, if we look at the system, we can see here the alarm values. So when the transmit battery gets below 3.7, when the receiver gets below 4, and when the flight battery gets to 7.4, you will get beeping from the transmitter to alarm you to those things. Just as an aside, here on this page as well, we can see stick mode 2, so it is possible to change the stick mode on here to mode 1, 2, and I believe 3 or 4. That then is just a basic overview of the app, which I'm sure you'll find useful. Last but not least then, we need to attach a propeller, and we have a choice of two here. This is the 7x35 and the 8x35. Now, your choice of those will perhaps depend upon what you're trying to do. Clearly, with the smaller prop, that's going to be more useful for longer flight times, as it draws less current, and perhaps more useful for the aerobatics and 3D flight modes. The larger slow fly style is going to pull a bit more current, but it will be giving you more thrust. So the choice is yours. I think I'm going to put this one on using one of the supplied little O-rings here. Remembering, of course, always you have the numbers on the propeller facing forward. There, then we can see the O-ring in place. And now, exercising caution, as I mentioned before, there's no cut-off on the throttle, it's live from the get-go. And I can feel there that it's raring to go, as you can see. That then completes this video with the build and the overview of all the functions. Next time I'll see you at the field. Thanks for watching.